Let me just position my large head right in front of it and turn the laptop. Oh, this is the wrong headset. Too many headsets. I'm not cool.
Oh my god, dude.
Okay. Okay, just crushing this Thursday, everyone. Out of my way.
Oh, no.
There's our cold open.
I'm recording, so we got it.
Good.
Would it be so bad if an 84-year-old got into heroin?
Welcome to the Cat Organizational Podcast.
You idiot. It's written down in front of you, idiot.
This is like the buffalo chicken wrap of answers.
I haven't heard about hot orcs in a while.
We were so horny for motion controls in 2005.
I can't wait to come back and tell you how it was Noah's Ark, you asshole.
I would also like to retroactively say I've never had cotton candy acid.
So Andrew's 100% doing a voice, right?
Everybody get off IMDb now. Time to record.
This episode and probably this whole podcast is a mistake.
All right, let's do them podcasts.
Got a Nintendo sale to
Yeah,
peruse.
come on, hurry up. I got my Blasphemous.
I got fucking Overwatch to play. Let's do a podcast.
Well, we playing Overwatch tonight? I'll play Overwatch tonight.
I'll
3,
play-
2, 1,
yeah,
let's do
Todd,
it.
We're gonna play some Overwatch. Hello and welcome to Debate This, the show where no one is right, but someone is definitely wrong.
I didn't have time to say no.
In this show, we talk about comic books, video games, and how now that the U.S. is officially in a recession, I trust loot boxes more than I trust my employer's 401k match.
Oh,
Ouch.
That one stings.
At the end of the day, you don't control either of them.
Oh, everything's luck of the draw now.
I think the problem with now that we're in a situation where we're recording our episodes like literally a month in advance is we have no idea what the world's gonna look like when this releases.
money isn't going to be real.
We
when this
fucking
episode
we could all be
drops.
ruled by like panda bears for all like who the hell knows. Like this shit could just turn into Mist of Pandaria, the World of Warcraft expansion outside, and we have no idea.
Andrew, would you say it's going to be a pandemic?
Yes. That was a bump set and a spike to my best friend Matt Cole.
Hell yeah.
It doesn't count if you bump and set your own 2 hits to the third spike. That's illegal
That's
in
how
volleyball.
I play volleyball at family reunions.
Shut up. Your family has never played volleyball at a family reunion.
Well, I don't have family reunions, but if I did, that's what we would probably.
When I go home, I just do this.
Yeah.
Thank you all for tuning in to Debate This, which is now apparently a beach volleyball podcast.
Okay, so every few weeks, we like to take a break from debating and venture down a path of civility. In today's Debate This sidebar, we're going to take a look at our own personal game catalogs and talk about some games that we think only we have played. Whomst among us hasn't spent 99 cents on a bargain bin game just because the cover looked cool? Or bought a cardboard box of Vidya games from some nice old lady at a garage sale? If you've considered yourself a hashtag gamer for more than a few years, you've certainly stumbled across at least a few games that have made you say, does anyone else know this exists? Today I am joined by Kyle Swapfire Harper, Todd Chicken Shoot Thomas, and Andrew Cyber Tiger Henderson to talk about some of our deep cut favorites. I was selected as most likely to talk about some bullshit game that doesn't actually exist 4 out of every 5 episodes, so they're making me moderate this journey. So dudes, let's go ahead and jump in.
Matt,
You really gave yourself a test there by putting
Yeah.
Todd Chicken Shoot Thomas in there.
That was tricky.
Yeah.
You're playing
yeah.
on expert mode. Matt, I just want to be clear. You made your own bed when on recording, not 1, but 3 times said, oh, guys, I think I have Razor Scooter, the game.
Yeah, I do. It's... Wait.
Yeah.
Wait.
While Matt's looking for it, I have a question. Is Whomst Among Us, is that the Last of Us remake that's coming out on PlayStation 5?
That's the Last of Us knockoff that your grandma accidentally buys you for Christmas because it's
I got you
$5.
Whomst Among
Yeah,
Us.
it's the Transmorphers version of the last.
It's Whomst Among Us. It's played on the PlayStation.
All right, guys. So I want to talk about weird, crazy video games that you feel like only you have played. So what are a few games you think only you have played? And if you could pick one of them that you would like to discuss today, I would like to hear about it. So Kyle, let's go ahead and start with you.
So the first game that comes to mind when I think of games that only I have played is Railroad Tycoon for the PlayStation 1. which is a garbage game trying to ride off the popularity of Roller Coaster Tycoon. But I didn't play that much of it. So some other games that come to mind are Lost Magic, which is a real-time strategy game on the original DS, a launch title that has you casting magic spells by drawing runes on the bottom screen. And I won't go more into that one today because the rune recognition in that game is trash.
Is it like the language the original Palm Pilots used? Like how you
probably
you couldn't write the actual letters, you just had to make the certain squigglies?
Yeah, you had to it like tracked your squiggles, and when the enemy is just like stomping your face in and you can't get a lightning bolt squiggle to cast a lightning bolt, you end up throwing your DS across the living room.
It's part of the game.
So the game I actually want to talk about today, which I'm surprised none of you have heard of, because it is part of a major franchise, is the Game Boy Advance game Sonic Battle.
But is it part of a major franchise, though,
Yeah.
Kyle?
I've never heard of that. I've heard of every Sonic game, and I've never heard of this.
That's like trying to corner people that played Mario Teaches Type and saying that is officially part of the Mario canon.
Mario Teaches Type is an official Mario canon game, Todd. You
Okay,
bite your tongue.
Mavis Beacon's gonna meet you out back and fight you because it's not as good.
Sonic Battle is a Super Smash Brothers style fighter for the Game Boy Advance, featuring everyone's favorite Sonic the Hedgehog characters. It was released in 2003 in Japan, came out in early 2004 in the US. I don't know how we came across it. I think we were at Walmart. We saw Sonic and Battle and this very angry looking fireball character on the script cover that is not in the game at all. And my brother and I each bought a copy so we could battle each other and played it. And it's weird. It's a weird game.
It looks like trash. Is it trash, Kyle?
It was pretty fun. The story mode is short. It's a solid, like, if you ever find yourself with the opportunity to play it, I would recommend playing it. But the plot is Dr. Robotnik reading his ancestor Gerald Robotnik's
Right.
journal, discovers this 4,000-year-old super weapon called a, wait for it, Jizoid.
Oh no. Oh no.
Nope.
Which,
No.
Nope.
which is basically just an advanced AI robot that learns how to beat the things it's fighting against. So it's kind of like a Mazo, but in the Sonic universe. So you play through the story mode. You take this robot around Sonic locations. You fight other Sonic characters, and when you beat them, you get new moves that you can slot into your move slots for your robot and like customize the attacks your robot has for this battler game. And that's the game. You collect the Chaos Emeralds, you beat Dr. Robotnik. Your robot has a third act twist where like they activate the seek and destroy mode, and you have to play as Sonic and put down your child before it destroys the universe, and that's the game.
Did Sonic Team do it, or was it third party like Sonic the Dark Chronicles or whatever that RPG was?
Developed by Sonic Team, published by Sega in Japan and THQ worldwide.
Damn.
I just really wanted to reference Sonic Chronicles : The Dark Brotherhood.
Kyle, two quick things. Thing number one is that someday, maybe in November, maybe in 2021, that Black Widow movie is going to come out, and about 100 Debate This fans are going to look at Taskmaster and say, oh, that's just some bullshit ripoff of Amazo, because we have now referenced Amazo so many times.
Yes.
Thing two is the last question in my little document here that I have typed up for prep for us is, should people play this game? Should people seek out ports or ROMs of Sonic Battle and enjoy this for themselves?
So if you can find a cart of it and a working Game Boy Advance, it was real fun to play on the Game Boy Advance. I have actually since tried it in an emulator. It doesn't translate super well to keyboard just because I don't play games on a keyboard super well. But like I said, it's a solid 15 hours. I had a good time. It's not gonna like blow your mind, but it's a fun game.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, you get to you battle Tails and Knuckles and Peaches and Cream, and who else is in here? Amy Rose, Rouge the Bat. It's a fun little game.
Right on. All right, Todd, let's go over to you. Give us a couple of games you think only you have played, and what's the one you're going to dive deeper on today?
Well, I already threw out Mario Teaches Type because I legit did have that on my grandparents' old gateway back in like 1995.
Was that the same people that did Mario's Time Machine and Mario's Missing? Or is that a different company?
If I remember right, it looked similar, but it was very, very different interfaces. I think that was back when just like typing was going to be the new cool thing, and they're like, "Yeah, we can do that." Like,
Yeah.
you got a game? We'll just throw
No,
a
it was
skin on
Interplay of all.
of all the
Yeah.
the original like Fallout 1 and 2 creators.
Yeah, Interplay,
Wild.
RIP.
Huh. So that's one to throw out. I would also throw out a couple other deep cuts. There was a game on PlayStation called Monkey Hero that I played.
What?
Delightful.
You were a monkey ninja, and it was perhaps one of the worst games I've ever played.
Did it come out before? Do you know if it came out before or after Ape Escape? Was it like riding on the coattails of Ape Escape?
It was about the same time. They were both 99, so Monkey
Okay.
Hero had no chance. If Ape Escape was in the same calendar year,
Yeah.
no chance.
Nope.
Which I played the shit out of Ape Escape
Escape's
1.
a
I
good game.
100%ed Ape Escape 1.
As far as simian simulators go.
Yeah, it's pretty high up there. I would also say, I would have said Tamba 1 and 2, but I think in the talk of this, Andrew had at least heard of it. I don't know if you played Tamba.
I played it. I didn't get very far in it, but I did play it. It was like that weird 2.5D craze.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It was very, very good. And then a last one I would throw out before I tell you what I actually chose. If you played it on Game Gear, Tails Adventure. It was very, very good. It was very, very hard.
I feel like I did play that.
There were, if I recall, there were 3 Game Gear exclusives, and I had the 2 that weren't Tails Adventure.
It was, well, Tails Adventure's big thing was you gathered items throughout like playing, and the items would help you continue forward. So it was one of those, like, if you got the right treasure items, you'd have an easier time going forward. Super hard game. But the game I'm going to talk about today is Brave Fencer Musashi. So Brave Fencer Musashi was on PlayStation, and I'm pretty sure it's a PlayStation exclusive, made by Squaresoft. So that lands us in 1998.
Yeah. You're in my house now. Get out.
Yeah. And so Kyle and I were talking about this beforehand. The reason why few people probably knew about Brave Fencer Musashi is it came out about 2 months before Ocarina of Time did.
Oh.
And so
Well.
if you were trying to breathe any air in the Q4 of 1998, you weren't going to, because Ocarina of Time came out in December.
You know what though, Todd? I said I didn't know of this game. I recognize that box art though. I feel like
Yeah.
I've seen that, like that box art must have made its way around like Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon at the time, because I definitely recognize that.
So the other reason you might have heard of this or potentially even played it was because a demo for this came on one of the demo discs that launched with the PlayStation for a while. Yep.
That might be it.
So a lot of people were familiar or played it but didn't buy it because And so anyway, in Brave Fencer Musashi, it's a third-person game where you are the titular Brave Fencer Musashi. And what it is you have been summoned to the all-you-can-eat kingdom by Princess Filet. Yeah, it's a lot of this.
All you can eat, spelled all one word, ALLUCANEET.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Serving people like Steward Ribson and Butler Livers. But what you are doing is you're actually fighting off the Thirst Quencher Empire, which has a bunch of doofy people like Flatski and Root Trick, and they all look real goofy. But what you're ultimately doing in the end is you're trying to fight off the Wizard of Darkness, collecting these Crest Guardians, and your sword can assimilate other enemies' powers. So it's actually really, really cool that like you fight an enemy, you throw your sword into them, and now you can do what they did, very like Kirby or Mega Man-esque.
So one day, when the Black Widow movie comes out, everybody's gonna see Taskmaster and be like, "This is a bullshit ripoff of Brave Fencer Musashi."
Yeah, yeah. Apparently, in looking up, they did a sequel on PlayStation 2, which I had no idea about. So I'll kind of have to check that out. But to answer your last question, should people play it? I would vote yes. This is a game that I will probably try to find a ROM for at some point because I, when I was 11 or so, enjoyed playing it a lot. I watched a YouTube clip of it today, and the guy complained a lot about not being able to figure out their puzzles, which I found kind of frustrating because when I was 11, I figured out a lot of the puzzles, and apparently I was super close. I was super close to almost beating it. So now I got to go back and actually do it.
Yeah, dunk on that YouTube guy, Tom.
Yeah, fuck
And
that.
then I'm gonna
fuck
add
that
him.
one guy.
You want to add him in the podcast?
Nah, I won't do that until I know I can go back and beat it.
So I looked up the wiki page because I've heard of this game and I've wanted to play this game for a long time because it's just niche, like it's perfect that era of Squaresoft where they just could do no wrong. But I've never played it myself. But a couple interesting points here. So it was directed by Hironobu Sakaguchi, who is more commonly known as like the father of Final Fantasy. So like he's the guy. But interestingly enough, the characters were designed by none other than Tetsuya Nomura, who had just come off the heels of designing Final Fantasy VII, and who would later, a few years later, start developing or directing, say with me, Kingdom Hearts.
The one I thought what you were going to do is, so the main voice for Brave Fencer Musashi is a woman by the name of Mona Marshall. Mona Marshall might be more familiar to you as the voice of Izzy from Digimon.
Well, which
cool.
is funny because the Japanese voice is Rika Matsumoto, who is the voice of Ash in the Japanese Pokemon anime.
There we go. She is also the voice of Fire Emblem Three Houses, the English version voice, and the voice of female Khajiit, and just other really. She's a very popular voice actress, is what I'm saying. She is credited with additional voices in the Emoji Movie.
Okay.
Oh, good.
What a credit.
Top of the list.
I think we're done with trivia. The trivia
Yeah,
portion
okay.
is over.
Do we have more?
No.
Not exciting trivia.
Andrew, will you be including this game in your 15+ hour flavor text on
Oh
Final
fuck!
Fantasy?
How much time do you have? We could do the final. I mean, well, okay. Let's
Not
talk about
enough.
this, right? So we could do all of Final Fantasy, or we could do the Final Fantasy universe, which also includes all of the guiding games like Crystal Chronicles and Chocobo's Dungeon.
All right, I regret it.
in
Sorry I
addition-
brought it up.
In addition
Yeah,
to
you're-
1997,
No.
Guys, which was a fighter.
Oh, fuck, I've played Urgeist, and I
Yeah.
really like Urgeist. Urgeist is a really good game.
It also
Don't feed him.
it also includes
You
Chrono
gotta
Trigger. of
throw
course.
Matt,
a
you're
blanket
our-
on this
You're
fire.
our stronghold against
Yeah.
Andrew's bullshit.
You're the North Star.
Guys, there's so much good content we could do.
All right, well, speaking of good content, Andrew, what are some games that you have been the only one to play?
not a
The
good
syntax of that sentence was a
Not
mess,
including
but-
all 30 games of the extended Final Fantasy universe. I have, okay, so I was racking my brain trying to think of a good one to bring up, and I had a couple. There's one in particular from the late days of PS2 where like I was 16, 17, I had a job, I had nothing to spend money on, so I got real into bargain bin hunting. And
yeah.
Yep. And I had so much garbage PS2 games that I would just like find for $5. A couple hidden gems. I remember finding Dead or Alive, the original, or Dead or Alive 2, I think, for $4.
Beach volleyball.
Not beach volleyball. Before beach volleyball.
Oh wait,
just the
what?
fighting game.
Oh, okay.
The original fighting game for PS2 was like $4, which it's like not a bad game. Not the best fighter,
No,
but
it's
um,
okay.
another game that I found was called Magic Penguin: The Quest for Color.
Is it about a penguin? Is a penguin involved?
There is no Penguin is referring to the magic like crayon that you get. It's basically an RPG version of Scribblenauts.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's
Okay.
yeah, so it's a Pokemon clone, and you just draw like a doodle, but it's a very watered down. It's not a very good game, which is why I don't want to get there's not much more to say about it. It's basically a stripped down Pokemon where you draw doodles, but the battling is not like as complicated as Pokemon. There are no types. It's literally just attack, magic, and defend, and it's rock, paper, scissors. So you play rock, paper, scissors with a bunch of doodles. There's a reason why it was $5 retail. It was a $5 game. So the game that I do want to talk about is a little more. I do think some people have heard of it. Maybe not you guys. It's called Mischief Makers, and it was released for the Nintendo 64. It's, if I remember correctly, kind of an older era N64 game. So I mentioned the 2.5D craze, which was definitely around in the early, like when before PlayStation figured out, like everything that came before Mario 64, basically. Before PlayStation figured out how to do 3D, this is before Crash Bandicoot. There were, like, Tomba is a great example of these games where you would have like a computer rendered image. It's like Donkey Kong's Country, but you would have it on a flat background, and maybe like you would see, like, if you'd run to the end of the level, the corners would flip, and then it would be like,
Yeah.
you know.
I forgot to mention it when I was talking about Sonic Battle. That's a weird thing about Sonic Battle is that it's like a 3D arena you fight in, but it's 2D sprites moving around.
That's
Yeah,
bad.
no, watching Sonic Battle feels bad.
Yeah. I was gonna say Kirby 64 is a much better integration of 2.5D. Like, I think that's one of the better examples.
Like Yoshi's Story.
Yeah, Yoshi's Story, great example. That also the later N64 games where they figured it out. This was not this. So a company by the name of Treasure, who were not huge but popular within a very particular crowd. Treasure was most notably a Sega producer, Sega developer. Their most famous game was Gunstar Heroes, which you may have heard of. Which was
rings
a Sega
a bell.
game.
Heard of it.
They did a lot of like shooters and arcade style games. I don't know if you ever played Ikaruga. Maybe Matt did.
What was it?
Ikaruga.
Heard that,
It was a shooter, just a shoot 'em up that came out for the GameCube.
I got nothing. Sorry.
Gotcha. Okay, so they weren't super popular, but very popular in certain circles, and they came out with this game called Mischief Makers. And the only reason I knew about it was I remember seeing it teased in one of the sizzle reels that you would get in those Nintendo Power videos that they would send every once in a while.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, and the only reason I had no idea who Treasure was. I was 8, and I didn't have any Sega consoles, so I wasn't really a big Sega guy and barely played any Sonics at that point. But I remember seeing like a 30-second demo of just the 2.5D, like the really cool 3D effects, and it's very cartoony. It's very anime inspired. But there's a lot of like chunky 3D polygons that in 1997 looked really cool, but it looks like fucking trash today. And basically the game is a platformer. It's a 2.5D platformer. You play as Marina. What is it? It's super. I lost it. Something super. Oh, Ultra-Intergalactic Cybot G, Marina Lightyear.
I don't know why you didn't have that ready to go.
Right.
Like,
right.
It just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah. It's kind of like, if I were to compare it to another platformer, I'd probably compare it to Wario Land.
Oh, weird.
Okay.
Yeah, because you don't really like fight anything. You grab stuff and throw it at other things.
Nice.
So I think that's probably the closest comparison. But a lot of people hate this game. Is very notorious now as like a weird meta narrative because every time you would grab something, you would hear Marina's one voice acting line say "shake, shake," and that's like. Yeah, that's the only thing that people know about this game. So you would but the whole point of the game was you would grab anything and shake it. So like to platform, you would have to like hop from this like platform and platform, but you wouldn't hop on platforms. You would grab them and then shake them, and it would throw you to the next thing. So you were constantly hearing shake, 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 shake. Yeah. So it's a fucking weird game. So to answer your question, Matt, would I recommend anyone play it? While I had a really fun time playing it when I was 10, much like most N64 games, it don't hold up. There's no reason to play it. It's just another platformer. a pretty middling platformer at that. So yeah, that's Mischief Makers.
All right. Well, I'll jump in here to close us out. I said a couple of games that I figured only I'd played here at the beginning with your nicknames. Yeah, Swapfire was a Wii U indie exclusive that I actually paid into a Kickstarter for and then never got any rewards for, and I'm still mad about it.
Nice.
Chicken Shoot is a shooting gallery game for the Wii where you guessed it, shoot chickens, and Cyber Tiger is a PS1 era, early 2000s Tiger Woods golf game.
I wouldn't have guessed that that's what it was.
Right,
That's
I know.
It makes
You'd
it
have no
better.
idea. Yeah. Here's the case art for that nightmare.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll try and remember to put that on the Instagram. But yeah, I have a whole bunch of games that I feel like only I have played because I am a notorious bargain bin hunter in a used game store like hoarder. I also had the last console that Sega ever made, the Sega Pico, and that weird educationally interactable tablet came with a lot of branded games that no one has played. But the game I want to talk about today is a absolute fever dream from Empire Interactive that came to the PlayStation 1, Microsoft Windows, and the Game Boy Advance in 2000, a game called Sheep.
Xbox wouldn't touch it.
Well, this was pre-Xbox, and Microsoft Windows had it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have Sheep here with me, and I wanted to read you the back of the case for Sheep, because I think that'll do a lot of my explanation for me. Sheep. They've traveled millions of miles across the galaxies. Their mission was simple: pose as stupid creatures and study the habitat. Soon forgetting their mission, sheep preferred to enjoy the sunshine and wallow in the lush green pastures. Now it's time for them to return home.
Fuck.
Your task is to guide the sheep back to their celestial ancestors, saving them from the perils of electric fences, shark-infested ice cream, and combine harvesters. It's not as easy as it sounds, especially when your sheep flock off in the other direction.
Is this like Lemmings?
Yes, it is.
It feels like
exactly
Sounds
like Lemmings.
Exactly like Lemmings.
Man, what? Okay, so at the time of the recording, we just got the PS5 big reveal video, or whatever, and it was underwhelming, and we won't get into it. But one of the things they showed is there's a new Oddworld, and I remember, if you remember the the original, I think it was the original Oddworld.
Yeah.
Before Abe's Exodus.
Yeah, that was the game. Was like you had a bunch of little guys that you had to get to the goal, and they're bringing it back. And I'm like, I was thinking, like, what a weird like spike in popularity. Like 1995, there was all kinds of these like lead the thing to the end of the goal type of game.
Clash of Clans. It's
the
maybe. Tower defense mobile game popularity.
Yeah, you're right. It's basically tower defense. You're right. Oh, shit.
Yeah, I assume all of us played some form of Lemmings before. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a fun game.
Yeah, sure
and
is.
it's effectively it's just a different layer on a puzzle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead though, Matt.
No, you're fine. I mean, Sheep is basically Lemmings, but it reeks of 2K PS1. It's nightmare low polygon circular graphics, and its frame rate is exceptionally slow, and there's a weird storyline about sheeps being aliens or whatever, and there's an evil doctor who uses genetically engineered cows as his like grunts, and so you're being chased by cows. It's a time. But all of that said, it is a really fun game, and as far as low polygon early PS1 or mid-era PS1 games go, it doesn't look that terrible gameplay-wise. I mean, the cutscenes are hot garbage, but gameplay-wise, it looks okay because it sort of sits in that 2.5D realm where you're playing with 3D sprites, but in a relatively 2D landscape or pre-rendered landscape. So it's not the worst to look at. and I had a good time playing it. I still have it, and it was like 99 cents out of a bargain bin. It's pretty fun. If you find it, play it. If you don't find it, you don't need to look for it. It's
Don't
okay.
seek
It's
it out.
it's just Lemmings.
There's 1,000 other variants of that same game.
Yeah, but it's fun, and it's like it's very much just a puzzle game. It's brainless. It is sort of like a tower defense game. All you are doing is herding sheep across whatever obstacles they put in front of you.
Are you a UFO?
No, so there. Let me continue from the back of the box. Thank you very much.
Real good.
Choose from 4 hapless herders. Herd 4 bewildered breeds of sheep. 7 wacky worlds with 28 flocktastic levels. There are 4 playable characters. One of them is Bo Peep. 2 of them are dogs, and one of them is some other guy. And yeah, this came from Empire Interactive, which like went under in 2009, but put out some big games. Like Crazy Taxi was Empire. The Flat Out series was Empire. They did some Hot Wheels games. They did the Jackass branded game. And
There was a Jackass game?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's not good. Sega Rally, Starsky and Hutch. Yeah, they did Virtua Cop. They did a couple of games that are like, they're there. They exist, and people have played them. And Sheep is fine. I don't know. I didn't hate it. I would sit down and play it again. It's not anything more than a time kill, but it's fine. I kind of like it. And that's Sheep.
All right. Some real underwhelming titles here.
Yeah. Cool. So now that we have all talked about some games that we feel like only we have played, I wanted to give a little more sustenance to this discussion, and jumping off this point where we have all talked about games that I think all of us have said, at least in some capacity, like, hey, I mean, if you find this game, play it. Like, it's not a total nightmare and eye poison.
Yeah.
So I came up with this question, and I want to jump into some discussion on it. With the rise in popularity of indie games over the last 5 years, I think there's an argument to be made that AAA does not necessarily equal good. So do games need to be popular, or by discretion, or by, I don't know, do games need to be popular to be good, or do games need to come from major popular production companies to be good games?
Absolutely not.
No.
Like,
No.
yeah, I mean, the thing that comes to mind for me, I have 2 bullet points in my argument for this. And one would be that so having gone to a conference and watched a documentary over Earthbound that I was very high during, Earthbound was incredibly underrated when it came out. Like, it just didn't hit the radar. It didn't get the backing. Especially the original Mother 1, like, didn't even launch in America. And so now, though, like, there's a huge cult following to Earthbound. So I would say that a game does not need to be a AAA popular game to be good. Furthermore, there have been plenty of AAA games that have come out and just been total bombs. And I'm trying to remember what this game is. Death Stranding being one that I could think of. I had to type in Norman Reedus game to remember what the title of that game was.
I would like to say that I've actually come around on Death Stranding, and everything that
you have not come around on the UPS simulator.
No, everything that I've heard about it makes it sound actually really good, and it's no lie on my short list of games to play.
Okay, well, we're gonna come back to this exact moment in the podcast later. Once you've played through it, and you're going to be like, yeah, I love balancing packages as I run down the hill. It's good.
So I'll take this torch from Todd before him and Andrew
yours.
get in a fight over Death Stranding. I'll agree that no, a game does not need to be popular in a AAA title to be good. Obviously, I think games like Hollow Knight and Celeste have proven that, like, the most talked about games usually are these indie titles, because they come out of seemingly nowhere and are incredible. The comparison I will make for the big franchise games, though, you don't go to McDonald's or Starbucks for a good hamburger or a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
You go to McDonald's and Starbucks for a cup of coffee or hamburger that you know.
A hamburger you can trust.
Yeah, 'cause it's consistency and familiarity. Yeah.
And if you're if you're buying a Call of Duty or an Assassin's Creed in 2020, it's because you want a game, you aren't sure what game you want. You know these titles, and you know they've delivered a more often than not positive experience. So you buy Call of Duty and you play it with your 4 friends again for a little while until you've convinced yourself you got $60 worth out of it.
The last burger that they made for you was a pretty good burger.
Yeah.
You liked that burger. And you're like, hey, I'll trust them to make me another burger.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm afraid to try any other burgers.
Two responses to that. One, that's an excellent comparison. I totally agree. But two, that was a really good. You said that very Walken-esque. Like I was like titles. Like you got titles. He was very. Nobody can see what Kyle was doing, but it was very Walken-esque. But yes, I wholeheartedly agree with that assessment.
Yeah, you buy Call of Duty because you didn't read any reviews, but you found yourself in a GameStop and you want to go home with a game today.
Yeah.
And more often than not, Call of Duty's been a positive experience in your life. But on the flip side, these AAA titles can absolutely deliver turds from time to time. My go-to example being Pokemon Sun and Ultra Sun and Moon, a AAA title, the first Pokemon game I could not finish since 1996.
Man, I haven't finished Vanilla Moon yet, let alone that game. But that's a great. I mean, that's a good example. That game came and went. Like I've never heard anything about that game as soon as it released.
And that's fine. Like, Game Freak moved on. They released Sword and Shield, which is, I think, a step up from the Sun and Moon titles. Water off the back of a duck. Like, they're unfazed by how poorly the last one did because they've got a deadline to hit and another one to come out, and maybe this one will be better. That's kind of where the big AAA franchises are in 2020. Is like, we just got to hit deadlines. Hopefully we don't string like too many bad entries back to back and tank our integrity.
Another prime example, I mean, and it pains me to say, like Fallout 76.
I was waiting for that to come up.
Yeah, man. And the thing is, like, even when it came out, like so for me, since I have a core group of friends that play it or that played it, we really did enjoy playing multiplayer in the Wasteland. And I think that Bethesda and Todd Howard had found a way to like salvage a thing that kind of had a very rough launch. But then they're like, oh, by the way, we're going to start a paid subscription now to give you the things that you actually wanted that we promised. And since they announced that paid subscription back in October of 2019, I've played less than 2 hours. Like, and that was after they announced the brand new DLC that included NPCs, and it feels good for the 2 hours I played it, but I'm like, nope, on principle, I'm done. Mm-hmm. When they release the next Fallout, if they come with their hat in their hand, apologizing for the sins that they've dumped upon us, maybe I'll try that one, but man, they took a name, they took an idea, and they just tripped, and it was bad.
They effectively tanked both of their best franchises with shitty, massively multiplayer online games.
Yeah,
but they took home a bunch of money doing it.
Well, yeah, I mean they did what they set out to do. I was gonna say, because in this day and age now with this industry, video games is so intertwined. Gaming is so intertwined with the internet that I think games don't need to be popular to be good, but I think games need to be good to be popular.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And with Twitch and with YouTube and the myriad of podcasts like the one you all are listening to right now of people that are just constantly talking about games, it's an instant feedback loop. And there's so many fucking games out there that it is impossible to make any traction with a game, even if it's got Pokemon behind it. And like Kyle had a great example. Like, I dare you to find somebody who owns a copy of Ultra Sun or Ultra Moon, or just tell me anything about it. Like, tell me anything about it right now, because I sure as hell could. And I know that it released, but I think that's a sign of popularity is no longer a cause; it's an effect.
Yeah, I think that that's a really interesting point to make too, because there are so many indie games out there. To go back to the burger example, like you get a burger from McDonald's and you know it's going to taste like soggy lettuce and black pepper. But if you're 3 hours from home and 3 hours from your destination and you're hungry, soggy lettuce and black pepper sounds great. But there's so many indie games out there that you're never guaranteed to bite the best burger. And I have played some indie games that have blown my socks off. I mean, like, I think that Shovel Knight and the whole Shovel Knight series is one of the best games that I've ever played.
Easily.
And Yacht Club, I think, is one of my new favorite development teams. And anything Yacht Club puts out, I'm going to be behind. But then there are other indie games that I've played and I've supported really hard that I really liked, but weren't popular. And I was really, really curious why they weren't popular because I liked them so much. And you look back and it turns out it's because they weren't very good. And I think that that's a really good point that you made, Andrew. Like, to go back to something I said earlier, Swapfire was a game that was a Wii U exclusive that I loved. And me and the 15 other people in America that played their Wii U when Swapfire came out 4 years after the Wii U's prime really, really enjoyed it. But there was no popularity for it. And I ended up paying a bunch of money into a Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter went up in flames, and they kind of took the money and ran. And when it comes to indie games, I think that's a hesitation that a lot of people have, is like, I don't want to spend $15 or $20 on an indie game and get burnt and end up wasting my money when I know I could spend $30 or $40 on a AAA game and I might get burnt, but it's a lot less of a chance that it'll happen.
Well, I think there's another element here too. It's time, and if you're going to use the burger example, it's comparing eating at Chipotle or eating at McDonald's versus spending 2 hours on Yelp to find the best local burger,
the best taco place.
Yeah, the best taco place. And it's like, you can certainly do that and you're probably going to have a better experience, but that also means that you're going to spend 2 hours of your precious time
but I've
looking
got half
for
an
it.
hour for lunch,
Right.
and I got to make a decision before lunch hits.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Kyle. Go ahead.
No, I didn't think of these games because they're in a separate like compartment in my brain. But I've definitely played a handful of indie card battlers, because card battlers are my crack. That, like, you know, they get an expansion in and the whole thing folds because no one else but me and 4 other people and all the bots they paid for played this game. That's very much a thing. I wanted to bring out the point because I can't think of an example in video games, but there is another way things become popular. My example, I'm thinking of more movies and TV shows. If you guys can think of a game that falls in this category, I'd love it. Movies and TV shows do get popular now, not by being good anymore, but by being memeable. And I think that is
getting over it with Bennett Foddy.
Getting over it with Bennett Foddy, yeah. Any of the Rage Quit games. Quap.
Oh,
Quap.
yeah.
That's a
great
very
example.
good one.
YouTube games.
Yeah. FNAF. Like, FNAF is that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So there is another, games don't have to be good to be popular. They have to be memorable. And so, like, bad games can definitely meme their way into popularity.
I think instead of be popular, I would amend that to say stay popular.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Because a lot of those meme games, you're absolutely right. A lot of those meme games they come and go. Like, a YouTuber will get a million hits on looking at on playing shovelware or on the Wii, but none of those games are gonna. But there's a reason why people still play Doki Doki Literature Club. Like, granted, it was memeable, but it's like a legitimately good experience. And I know no one except for Matt. Thank you, Matt, for nodding in approval.
Yeah.
I needed someone to. Because Dan Salvato is actually a pretty talented game designer, but. Comparing that to Getting Over It, like, I think Getting Over It, Benny Foddy, no one's playing that now.
Right.
I was just gonna say, I can't tell you the last time I saw any coverage of any stream playing Getting Over It. Like, that's not.
Yeah.
Like, everyone has seen Markiplier play it, and the one guy who got the farthest you can almost get and then plummet to his like fall in free fall
Yeah.
for like 8 straight seconds as his eyes just lock onto the screen.
Right.
It's on every like watch people die inside
Yeah.
compilation you've ever seen.
Yep.
Yeah.
But like that was the point of the game though. Like
Yep.
that was the whole point. It was supposed to be infuriating for those moments, which is exactly what we're talking about.
For sure. So to move on from indie games of today, I think that whole argument that games don't have to be AAA or necessarily popular out of the gate to be good games, I wanted to look backwards a little bit and ask, do you think there are games from our collective childhood that didn't get the credit they deserved? Or like, is Unknown Games Can Be Good a totally modern concept? Did that come to exist with time and experience? Could indie or smaller production companies put out decent games, I don't know, pre-2006?
I'll start by I'll back off for the start of this because I don't know what games I played in my childhood that were and weren't popular. I had a Nintendo Power subscription and a Game Informer subscription and bought highly rated games in those, but I don't know how popular those ended up being. But I will throw out Golden Sun deserved much more credit than it ever got.
Golden Sun was really
than
good.
it continues to get to this day. Put Isaac in Smash.
There it is.
Someone else go.
I like that. I think there's a lot of relevancy in comparing this industry and the growth of this industry to others, and I and similar to like the hamburger comparison, I just thought of the difference of playing games in the 90s, like renting games for my Super Nintendo versus finding a game on my Switch to play now. I compare that to it's like when you were a kid and you were just watching TV. You didn't watch TV to watch TV. You didn't go for a certain show. You just watched whatever was on.
Yep.
Right.
So it was like,
Mhm.
and that, when you're being drip fed, when companies are telling you, hey, here is the new blank, you're just like, cool, I'm going to play that. Or like you go to a game store and it's like, yeah, that looks fine. Like it didn't matter. It was like, that's what's available. Like that's what, Atlas is telling me. Atlas is using their marketing dollars to tell me to buy Arrow the Acrobat because it looks like Mario. Great. I'm
Yep.
done.
Yeah.
But now it's more like Netflix where you have too many options and you will probably spend more time buying a game than you actually will playing it. I mean, I have so many games that I've never opened because I can't, the sheer thought of spending 60 hours to play that game that I bought.
Yeah.
I've already had the experience in researching it to buy it.
Yeah.
That was the game.
I would also go to add that I kind of to part of what Andrew just said. Back in the 90s, especially like the early 90s, I just don't think people were not making games like they're making them now. Like they did not have the availability of the tools to do that sort of thing.
Sure.
And I know this because like after listening to enough like documentary work of what Nintendo was doing in the early 90s, I mean, I also subscribed to Nintendo Power. And they always had like the 800 numbers you could call to get cheats and codes and tips.
Yeah.
And it was literally someone who's just been playing the game a month longer than you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
it was literally like
it was someone
like,
whose job it was to play the game for 8 hours
Yeah.
a day so they could answer these
they're
questions.
they're like, hey Matt, this game is coming out in 2 weeks. Play it. Because when people call asking for how to beat the boss, you're gonna tell them. Like that was what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
obviously, like, I don't know. I get that they were still doing very cool things and making video games and things are exciting that way. But like, I will not give too much credit to 1995 for pretending that like they were on the cutting edge of like people at home building these excellent games. It was starting, but it just wasn't there yet.
Andrew made the great point of like, you didn't watch a show because you loved that show in 1995. You watched the show because the TV was on and your parents weren't watching it at the time. So you had to like whatever was on TV. Similarly, you had to like whatever game you brought home from the store that month. Like
whatever
Yeah.
game that was on the shelf at that store because it had been placed on the shelf in that
if you
store.
had bought a turd of a game, you were stuck with it. Because there was nothing to tell you beforehand. All you had to go off of was the box art and maybe if the clerk at the desk had like a recommendation for you. But if you brought home a bad game, you better learn to like that bad game, because your other option is playing the games you're all tired of already. Like, there is no e-store. You can't just like download something else. You're stuck with Rugrats Great Adventure or whatever.
Was that the PlayStation game?
I
played it. If it was,
I don't know. I was thinking
there was a ghost level that was scary
that
as
one
shit.
is ass. The PlayStation one.
I'm thinking of my brother and I got to pick. My brother got to pick the game one month. He picked a Rugrats Game Boy game, and it was not good.
Oh, I had a Rugrats Game Boy Color game, and it was like, well, I think that was the other thing about like games of that era too, and I think we're all speaking strictly of Super Nintendo, but I'm curious to hear Matt's perspective, because I think the GameCube era had a lot more experimentation going on, because like Super Nintendo was 90% platformers, like that's what it was.
Yeah.
You know, it was like platformers or Street Fighter clones. Like, that was it.
Yeah.
It was platformers, Street Fighter clones, and then like Chrono Trigger and Super Mario RPG.
Well, like,
and
whatever the fucking amazing work that Squaresoft was doing, but nobody else was doing that. You know, like it was all just like, let's put this popular character and have them find 10 of one item and then go on to the next level. Like that's what it was.
And I did most of my game buying in that GameCube era as well, except I was only buying games that got like an 8 or higher in Nintendo Power or Game Informer. Like, I wasn't taking risks at that point on weird games.
Yeah, Matt, what's your take?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting for a couple of reasons, because for one, I bought a ton of games in the GameCube era, obviously, but my childhood, or what I consider my childhood console, was an N64, because I had an N64 from pretty much the day it was released. And I played a lot of N64 games like Hydro Thunder and Micro Machines and Extreme G.
Hydro Thunder fucks. Dude, I played the shit out of Hydro Thunder at the arcade in the Isoplex. That is a reference for 3 people, but
I played a lot of Hydro Thunder at my local BW3s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So like, I have all of these games that I loved growing up, and if I look back, I don't know that they were necessarily good or bad, but I loved them. And I think the most interesting change in gaming has been the accessibility of the opinions of others. Because like, when I was a kid, if a game looked cool, I bought it, and if I liked it, I liked it, and nobody told me how I should feel about it.
Yep.
And now the first thing that pops up when you click on a Steam page is the top review. And everybody is governing, well, not everybody, I don't want to generalize, but I would say most people are governing a lot of their games purchases by reviews and opinions and things like that. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but there are a lot of games that I've played that are probably bad. There was one called Amazing Island for the GameCube that I liked a lot. I'm trying to like look over my shoulder. I mean, to go back to a previous debate this episode, Bloodwake is a perfect example.
Bloodwake is a good example.
Yeah, so like, there are all of these games that I loved because I liked playing them, or I liked playing them with my friends, or I had a good experience with them, and I don't know if they were good or bad, but I really liked them. And then the other perspective I have on this is that I've become a pretty big asterisk. I work a nearly minimum wage job, so I don't have a ton of money to spend on this hobby, but a retro games collector. And so I have a whole cabinet of games that I've bought out of a bargain bin just because it came out on the N64 and I want to have it. And so I've ended up with a lot of games that I've played like sheep, and I've said, this is fun, and this is a nice little time capsule. I don't know that I'm going to pick it up again, but I would play it. So that's I guess my perspective is, I don't know that in our childhoods, in pre like 2006, going from NES to early GameCube, you can necessarily say unknown games or games from smaller production companies were definitively good or definitively bad. I think that those games are games that have a lot more nostalgia wrapped around them and a lot more personal opinion wrapped around them, because you got Nintendo Power once a month or Game Informer once a month, and other than that, it was just asking your neighbors what they had, or going over to your PlayStation's friend's house.
If you were lucky enough to have a computer, there were some reviews out there, but not a bajillion reviews for every game ever released forever.
Yeah.
Like waiting for the dial-up connection to make game FAQs work.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
scrolling through game FAQs. Yeah, so
You don't call
I
it
know.
game facts? I thought everyone.
Oh,
just
I've always called it game facts.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
100%.
it's game
Always called it
facts.
game
I-
facts.
Yeah.
Like what
That's him making sure you're not a cop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Ugh.
it's defo game facts. I just for
That
the
joke has different
uninitiated.
connotation in June of 2020.
It
Oh,
sure
yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Feels
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, so I don't know. I guess that's my opinion. And then the other thing, my last point on that is like, hell, in 1995, Nintendo had the money to make games. Nobody else had the money
Yeah.
to make games.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do.
And making games was hard and expensive. It's not like 2020 when the Nintendo Switch dev kit is open source and Steam Greenlight exists. Like,
Yeah, you can pirate Unreal Engine
You
4.
can, if
now.
you can get
Yeah.
Unity for free. I mean,
Yeah,
Unity,
Yeah, right. And like VR chat and even what the hell's the game with the blocks and the building and things? Minecraft.
Minecraft?
Yeah, thank you.
you sound like 1,000 years old.
Well, I'll take sounding like 1,000 years old over 0 years old, which is
Fair
how I
enough.
usually sound on this show. So, but yeah, to move on into the last couple points that I have for this discussion today, are there any other unknown games that you would recommend people seek out to play, whether they are modern or retro or mobile or what have you? And where do you recommend people find undiscovered games?
I like this question, the way you've worded it, because it's almost guaranteed to just draw out, I played this game from all our listeners. That's not an unknown game. I
Yeah.
played it for years. But my two kind of sleeper games that I don't see a lot about that I've really enjoyed. One is I am just sinking all of my extra time right now into Dead Cells.
Yeah, you are. It shows up every time that
yeah.
I'm playing Animal Crossing.
I need your help in getting. I can't crack Dead Cells. Like I've tried 3 or 4 times. I can't get into it.
I mean, it's just a mindless Metroidvania for me. Like it's
Yeah.
just like what goodies am I gonna get? I've learned I'm a sucker for like that whatever genre is
Roguelike.
Well, roguelike, but specifically the randomly generated maps every time.
Oh, yeah, it's roguelike.
So
That's
it's
roguelike.
okay. The roguelike games where like the map's just different every time. It's a new experience every time. So I'm really enjoying Dead Cells. Into the Breach is another one.
Into the Breach is very, very good.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
It's a like an Advanced Wars style game, except the conflicts are randomly generated every time. There's a set of goals you're trying to hit, and if you don't hit it, it just kind of like you didn't succeed the mission, and it pulls you back out, and then you queue up another one, and it's like it didn't matter. But
hey, why haven't we gotten Advance Wars for Switch yet? Wouldn't that just like perfectly make sense?
They haven't made any since the DS era.
All right, just asking for a friend.
they did one for the DS that they added like RPG elements to, and like you would level up and like try and keep your units, making it closer to Fire Emblem, and it
Gotcha.
tanked, and there hasn't been a Advance Wars since. There is a game is it from the same company, or is it just an Advance Wars knockoff, Wargroove?
It is a knockoff. It is an indie game, an homage. Thank you.
Okay. So I've heard Wargroove scratches the same Advanced Wars itch, but I've also not played it myself to vouch for it.
Advanced Wars is intelligence systems, so they just do so much shit that I'm sure they just moved on. Because they're focusing on Fire Emblem. That's why.
So Into the Breach is cheap and a good thing. I also will throw out my recommendation for the digital card game Eternal. It's free to play. It's more free to play than any other digital card game I've found, in so much that I've not spent a dime on it and have had 3 competitive decks at 3 different points in playing. Like I've taken breaks and come back. That's not continuous play that I've been able to keep up. I've like jumped back in a few times and just like, oops, I've got a competitive deck again. And as far as for how to find them, I look on Steam, I look on the Nintendo eShop, I see what's on sale, and if it's under the amount of money I'm willing to spend when I've got that itch, I buy it and see what it's like. Steam and the Nintendo eShop are the Nintendo eShop. The Switch has been incredible for my enjoyment of indie games. So if you've got a Switch, find some look through the eShop and just take a risk on something that's under $10 or $15 because odds are it's pretty decent.
I'll give you 4 fast ones. So going off what Kyle just said, I think it probably classifies itself as indie. I had talked about it earlier. Turmoil on the Switch right now, part of the summer sale. Just very, very fun. Kind of fits in that category that Kyle was just talking about. The 3 in order of the ones you've probably played, throwing it back to Sega, Earthworm Jim was a game I played on
Earthworm Jim is so good.
Sega Game Gear. Just a ton of fun. Just stupid fun. Highly suggest that. The other one that I would say is a like a staple of growing up on the Sega Genesis as well is Toe Jam and Earl Panic on Funkatron.
Yeah.
If you have not played, Toe Jam and Earl Panic on Funkatron, the music itself is so funky. It's so good, and the whole game is just very fun. It's also very different than what the original Toe Jam and Earl game was. And then the one I'm going to pull is the deep cut. I think it was the last game I played on GameCube before I moved on from that system, Cubivore. It was a game that was built to look like Minecraft, and you controlled an animal that was made up of, 2D cubes, so squares, that you would level up by getting another cube added onto your square, and it would make different animals. So you would basically evolve by adding another cube onto your animal, which could allow you to have wings or claws or better legs, and it was basically a puzzler that every level could be beaten, and if you beat the bosses in a certain level, you'd get certain order, you'd get the good ending for that level. But it was a lot of fun. And where are you gonna get those? The last 3? Good luck. I don't know. But you at me if you find a way to easily access
Todd's
Cubivore.
parents' attic.
Yeah, if you can find an easy way to access Cubivore in 2020 at Debate This Cast,
hit us up. I'll quickly. I mean, to be honest, the biggest obstacle, I've said this before on the show, the biggest obstacle for me in playing games right now as a 32-year-old is not necessarily money. I mean, I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but it's much more time. Time is just and the reason why I don't play a lot of undiscovered games is it's not even taking a risk for me. It's I'll spend $5 on a game that I don't know if it's good, but I don't want to spend 20 hours playing a game that I don't like, So, and it's kind of that Netflix example. It's I already pay for Netflix, but do I really want to get emotionally invested in a new thing that I don't know if I'm going to like?
For Netflix to cancel after a cliffhanger in season 2.
Yeah. So the most I guess niche games or the most unknown games are really, indie games that I think a lot of people have heard of. They're pretty mainstay indie games. Because again, I want to play the things that I know that I have heard of and that I know people like. But that said, really, really high praise for Enter the Gungeon. Is my Dead Cells.
Oh yeah.
Which is, I think, Kyle, it's a very similar style. It's just a shooter version of Dead Cells, but it's roguelike.
I've almost pulled the trigger many times
No
on
pun intended.
Enter the Gungeon. No pun intended. And only have stopped because I fear it's too similar to Dead Cells.
It certainly is. Binding of Isaac, Enter the Gungeon, Dead Cells. Pick one roguelike and just immerse yourself in it.
Yep.
Another good one, if you like Castlevania, Bloodstained. The Bloodstained series is really good.
Oh.
There's this whole subgenre of similar to Wargroove, games that are made in the spirit of older classic games. So Bloodstained, I think there's 2 or 3 of them out there. Curse of the Moon is the first one. They did a Kickstarter for a newer one, and it got a lot of weird internet fame for a few days because they basically redid the entire game. Because they did a Kickstarter trailer, it looked like trash, and then people were like, "Hey, I paid you money for this," and they're like, "Yeah, sorry." The Bloodstained's pretty good. It's got that old Castlevania feel. Thimbleweed Park is a point and click adventure game in the style of Monkey Island, but the vibe is very much Twin Peaks.
Oh, okay.
The Messenger was a game that I really, really liked. It was one of my favorite indie games of last year. It's very similar to Ninja Gaiden, but there's like a neat time travel mechanic. And then, I mean, anyone who listens to this show has heard my stupid 30-second promo of Hollow Knight, which again, like, Hollow Knight is in Celeste level of like everybody has heard of Hollow Knight, but
Right.
I just want to take this time to say Hollow Knight is one of my favorite fucking games of all time, and you have to. And if you have any interest in a Metroidvania or platforming or 2D action adventure, you need to play Hollow Knight because it's so good.
Its music also slaps.
Music is excellent. I mean, it's been 3 years since I played, and I still listen to the OST.
Thimbleweed Park came up when I was researching for whenever I talked about Myst.
Oh yeah,
It was
that tracks.
compared positively to Myst.
Yeah, well, if you didn't guess it, I've got a bunch, and I've been writing them down so I don't remember, or so I didn't forget any of them. But a lot of mine are actually on older consoles. So if you're somebody like me who's still holding on to a console that's collecting dust somewhere, this might be worth you pulling it out for if you have it or find it. Going from newest back, on the Wii U, there's a game called Tank Tank Tank. Which was really, really great.
I've heard great things about Tank Tank Tank.
Yeah, it's actually a port of a Japanese arcade game, and it's just a lot of fun. It's like a tank battle arena, and it uses the Wii U gamepad camera so that you can take a picture of your face to use as your player icon. And it's just
Good, yes.
Yeah, it's very goofy and fun. I like it a lot.
My favorite anime opening ever.
Yeah, I said newest to oldest, but I forgot I had one for the Switch. It's called Revenge of the Bird King. Like I said,
that was an Always Sunny episode, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Like I said a little bit earlier, I think this was off recording though. I went on this mission where anytime I logged on to the Nintendo eStore, if I saw a game for under 10 cents, I bought it. No matter what, no questions asked, I bought it. And that filled up my memory card with some absolute trash, and also helped me find Revenge of the Bird King, which is like a super difficult Metroidvania platformer. I think that it's a sequel to something that I haven't played, probably, I don't know, The Story of the Bird King, and
Legend of the Bird King.
It's really hard. It's been
Someone's
kicking my ass.
yelling at their iPhone right now. The real sequel.
Yeah,
prequel.
But it's a fun one. I liked that a lot. I had a couple on GameCube. Rampage Total Destruction, which is a remake of the arcade Rampage game, and then has a port of all of the original arcade games as bonus content. And cool. Rampage is one of my favorite game series ever. I really like it. So that one's great. SSX on Tour, which was the final sequel to the SSX snowboarding series. Most people dropped off after Tricky because Tricky was the last good one. And then they made SSX on Tour, which was like totally rebranded and reskinned and was very, very good.
I don't know if Tricky was the last good one, but that Tricky was the last one to come out when people cared about snowboarding as much as they did other
it came out at the right time.
Sports.
Well, and of course, like the headlining song of like Tricky in, like you hear it and you see it in your mind right now.
Matt, sidebar. I recommend you look up, if you haven't already, watch a speed run of SSX Tricky. It's buck wild.
Who's did it? Who was it?
I don't remember the streamer, but I watched it. I think it was part of an EGDQ years past.
Got it. I'll have to check
very,
that
very
out.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Kyle, to answer your earlier question of, I don't know if SSX Tricky was the last good one. SSX 3 is trash. Tricky was the last good one until On Tour.
Sure.
That's what I've heard too, yeah.
Yeah. But On Tour was like, they aged it up. They got rid of a lot of the like, oh, it's a video game. And it was more of a Tony Hawk Underground feel.
Gotcha.
And it was really, really good. Yeah, I think those are all of my console ones, a couple of digital ones. Oh, and I put Shovel Knight down because if you somehow missed out on Shovel Knight, much like everybody said with like
Go play Shovel
Celeste
Knight.
and Hollow Knight, yeah,
Like
go play it.
like stop listening to this fucking podcast and go play Shovel Knight. What's the matter with you?
It fucking rules. Play it.
If you can't afford it, you can cancel your Patreon. We
Yeah,
approve to go play.
we'll understand.
Yeah. A couple of other ones. Inside was really, really good. It's sort of a story game. And I think that one was from a bigger company. I don't remember who put out Inside.
It was it's the second in that series of It's in My Head and Not in Words.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm out on this one. Matt, while he looks for that, did you, being a fan of digital pinball games or pinball in general, did you play Metroid Pinball on the DS? 3DS?
I did not play Metroid Pinball. I
Limbo.
didn't have a 3DS. Limbo.
Oh,
That's
Limbo.
it.
Limbo. Fuck.
Limbo. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm back.
Yeah. Kyle, no, I didn't play Metroid Pinball. And back to Inside real quick. Inside is out by Limbo, and it's really good. It's a story platformer. It's cool. It's very like sci-fi macabre, and I liked it a lot. A game from actually local to Columbus developers that just came out on Steam a while ago. It's The Pedestrian from Skookum Arts. It's, I think, one of the most unique and interesting puzzle platformers to come out in the last 10 years. It didn't get a lot of traction because it got released way, way late, but it's a lot of fun. And if you're looking for a like 10-hour puzzle platformer, The Pedestrian is very much worth it. And my last one is a game from that you can find online. I originally found on addictinggames.com, but I've said before that I am a platform lover, and one of my favorite platformers of all time is called I Loved Her, But She Was a Zombie. And it's just a really fun Flash platformer.
I have played that one. That's very fun.
Yeah, if you want to know the kind of like platforming games I like, simple Flash platformers and puzzle platformers are my shit. And I Loved Her, But She Was a Zombie is very good. The last question was where do you recommend people find undiscovered games? I'll be the nerd and say support your local used game store.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a bunch here in Columbus that I love. We've talked about on this podcast a couple of times that I used to be on a YouTube Let's Play channel, and all I did was go around and use that as my excuse to spend money on games out of bargain bins and from used game stores, and I had a lot of fun with it and found some really cool stuff. So
I still love your loose theme was golf games.
Hell yeah, it was.
That's so good.
Yeah, it was a silly thing that we did, but it gave me an excuse to like stress buy used games at game stores, and hot damn if that didn't solve my mental health for a long time. So find yourself a local game store. I promise you there's one within a 15-minute drive, and go check out what they have. It's super worth it. I bought a Super Nintendo for $10. So
I forgot to answer that part of the question, but my answer to that is in the digital world, itch.io or itch.io, however you want to say that.
Yeah, itch.io.
Yeah, itch.io is just it's weird to say that out loud, but that's what I say I say in my head every time. They do a lot of really good bundles, and it's not just Celeste and Gone Home. It's stuff that you haven't heard of, that things that you would take a risk on. But they do a lot of bundles where like right now, actually, at the time of this recording, they're doing a massive bundle in support of Black Lives Matter. It's like $5 for 25 to 30 freaking games. It's insane. And Celeste is on there, so pay $5 to play Celeste. Like, it's great. So good.
Yeah, not to correct you, I just pulled up the headline, but you can buy 1,000 games for $5 from itch.io.
Right.
Close.
1,000,
missed it by that much.
Yeah, exactly. 1,000 10-cent games. And also, I don't dabble in too much, but a lot of people seem to like GOG, GOG.com.
Mm-hmm.
Which is their big thing is DRM free games, which I've never had a huge problem with DRM, but I know a lot of people try to avoid it. So that's a really good resource too.
Yeah, I would throw Game Jolt out there too. I think a lot of indie games still pop their way over to Game Jolt.
Okay.
Yeah, so another place to check. But that's all I have. Do you guys have any other thoughts to throw out, or any other unknown hidden gems you might have forgotten about?
Have you ever heard of a game called Final Fantasy 14?
Stop it.
Get the hell out.
I realize that it doesn't fall into the realm of like unknown games, but I still think that like my earliest times on Super Nintendo, all of my favorite games, except for maybe Donkey Kong Country 3, were bought knowing nothing about them. So like, I guess that is to say like, that is the purest joy that I'll never be able to get back as an adult now. Like not knowing what Super Mario RPG was, except like it's Mario and it looks way different. To find out that that is like my favorite game of all time is a type of. It's like the first time you watch Breaking Bad. You're never gonna get that again.
Yeah. Somewhere in my parents' house, unless Derek has cashed them in for game store credit, there is a stack of Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games that was bought on that same, like, we did all our chores and did our homework, so we earned a game this month. Let's go to the store and pick one out based on nothing except the box art. And there's a stack of those crammed in a closet somewhere. So
what a wholesome sentiment.
Chase that feeling, everyone.
Please do. Please go buy a $5 game because the box art looks crazy.
Shit, I just remembered that I bought Echo the Dolphin.
You bought Echo the Dolphin on Steam based on Matt's Aquaman reskinning of it.
That's right. Maybe that's what I'll do tonight.
Yeah, check out twitch.tv/debatethiscast.
Well, tonight we're gonna laugh at Todd as he awkwards his way through the beginning
I did not agree to
of
this.
Overwatch. Todd, shut up.
We're doing it.
You're
We're
playing
gonna stream
Overwatch
it
tonight.
Right on. All right, I think that's a perfect way to end this sidebar. So thanks for listening in to another Debate This Sidebar. Follow along with the argument on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at DebateThisCast, and check out our website at debatethiscast.com. And in case you haven't heard about it yet, we started a Patreon. Unknown, undiscovered games are the exact kind of things we talk about in our Discord every day. So if this conversation tickled your fancy, you can continue to be digitally tickled for the low price of $2 a month.
Yikes.
For $5 a month, Matt will never say digitally tickled ever again.
I can't.
That's worth it.
For $10 a month, Matt will tickle you with his digits.
I cannot promise either of those things, at least until a coronavirus vaccine comes out. You can also pledge a little more and get some tasty bonus DT exclamation point content. And one more request, if you like what you hear, please leave us a review in your podcast app of choice. That's the sort of thing that really helps us be discovered by new listeners. And as global domination is our one true goal, that will be incredibly helpful. Until next time, I'm Matt Cole.
I'm Kyle, Debate This Cat Harper.
I'm Todd. The only thing that'll save 2020 is a real Super Mario RPG sequel, Thomas.
I'm Andrew, now accepting applications for a Final Fantasy flavor text in the form of an HBO miniseries, Henderson.
And we're saying thanks for debating with us. And if you think we're wrong, then you can come fight us behind the swing sets, nerds.
Well, that was wholesome.